and welcome to another presentation from Christian Voice New Zealand. Help us to increase the number of viewers by sharing this with your friends. Now here's Mike Bain.
What is law? Why do we have them? In simple terms, the law is a system of rules that a society or government develops to deal with things like crime, business agreements, and social relationships. Now, mankind has been governed by rules and law since time began. The laws of nature, science, you get the picture, but the laws of God are quite different to the laws of man. In the Bible, the law of God is set out as a Mosaic law quite clearly, sometimes boringly, and some laws, well, they just don't affect us today. However, the principles still exist. Yes, there are a lot of them. It's universally accepted, some of which don't really relate to us in the 21st century. But given the nature of life and the hearts of mankind, God's law for how mankind should live, trade, marry, act, well, they're all important. But in every society, there are some who just don't get it and end up suffering the consequences. With so many nowadays rejecting the word of God, they find his laws irrelevant. God's law is totally different to man's law, but is it? I've often asked the question of many an audience, if you had the opportunity to sit and write a set of laws for New Zealand, where would you start? What would you base your rules for society on? This is the issue for today's lawmakers. Just what is the foundation you start from? I've spoken about contextual morality in the past. Contextual morality, for those who don't know, is where if it feels good, do it. If you don't like something, change it. Lawmakers today look at what's relevant for today, and they legislate laws. The problem is, unlike in biblical days, there's no mechanism to enforce them. You see, the issue with having laws based on contextual morality is that not everyone is going to agree with the new law. Let me give you an example. The Waikato Expressway, where the speed limit is 110k. Now, that's great because the road was designed and built for a higher speed and contains safety features. Now, if you've ever driven on the Waikato Expressway at 110 kilometres an hour, you'll have noted how many cars have passed you. You see, drivers travelling past you don't agree with the speed limit. That is reality. But here's the other question. Hey, where are the cops who should be enforcing the law? So this brings me to the question of law in New Zealand. Every year, government legislates new laws, and they're duly passed. Let me take one of those recent laws as an example. Cell phones. It's illegal to use a cell phone while driving. Now, this might obviously be a surprise to many of you, but then maybe not. As you see a cop approaching you, you quickly hide your phone. A driver answering their cell phone while driving was the reason I spent 4 weeks in a coma on life support last year fighting for my life. So I agree, using a cell phone is dangerous. And yes, I'm very biased towards them. And everyone, and I mean everyone, though, is on their cell phones doing something while driving. So how many have been prosecuted? What's the offence worth in dollar terms? $50, maybe $100? The point is this. We don't need laws, do we? After all, each one of us is 9 foot tall and bulletproof. Laws are, well, they're just a nuisance because we just don't agree with them. That's why we drive faster than the speed limit. That's why we use our cell phones. That's why some people rock up to supermarkets and just take what they want, leave and not pay for it. That's why we can borrow our neighbour's lawnmower and not return it. That's why we men don't really care if others dress up as a woman, and that's why we kill our babies in the mother's womb. We, and I say we, live in a culture where laws, rules and prohibitions are not for us. And you wonder why kids are driving cars into dairies, liquor stores, jewellery shops. If we're to have laws, then we need to have them enforced. If we're to have the laws, the enforcement must carry a penalty. If we're to have laws that enforce and carry penalties, then they must carry consequences to ensure reoffending doesn't occur. Let's go back to the cell phone. In Queensland, where they have CCTV cameras everywhere, if you're ever picked up with a cell phone in your hand while driving, instant fine $1,000. Now surely that's a deterrent right there. And if we're going to have laws in this country, they need to be updated, because some laws put into being has come about as knee-jerk reactions to a spate of crimes. For example, the recent law prohibiting young people from posting ram raids on social media. Like this is ever going to stop them. Laws must be relevant. For example, in the UK, it's illegal to operate a cow while intoxicated. Not sure if I've seen too many intoxicated cows, but there you go. In Western Australia, it's illegal to be in possession of more than 50 kg of potatoes. In Russia, it's illegal to tell our children that gay people exist. In Thailand, it's illegal to step on money. In Victoria and South Australia, it's illegal to hurt a homing pigeon. It's been repealed now, but in New Zealand, it was once illegal for cattle to mate in fields fronting public roads. I'm not sure if this is still on the books, but I do remember Gareth Morgan wanting cats to be forbidden leaving a house without 3 bows around its neck. In New Zealand, we made it illegal to spank our children. I often ponder if the spoiled children of yesterday are the ram raiders today. And the lunacy of lawmakers continues without thought, as it was only pre-COVID. Some movement in America wanted the police defunded. And then there's the stupidity, and I hope that we never see it in New Zealand, where the courts have ruled like the city of Denver to pay Black Lives Matter protesters $4.7 million in compensation because the police arrested protesters. Why? Because they were burning and destroying somebody else's property. Last year, the same city was ordered to pay a total of $14 million to 12 protesters who claimed police had used excessive force against them and violated their constitutional rights to protest. And in March again, the same court ordered Denver City Council to pay more than $16 million to 7 protesters who were injured during a curfew. So glad I'm not a ratepayer of Denver. But surely we won't see this sort of thing happening in New Zealand, where people who commit crimes are given compensation. But wait, hang on. We already do this, but it's not money, but things like McDonald's or KFC. Or in the case of people who broke the law and didn't bother to fill out a simple census form, well, they weren't prosecuted. They were just given tickets to go see the Warriors play, plus a $25 food voucher, and if that wasn't enough, an entry into the draw for a trip to Australia. You know what I received for obeying the laws? Nothing. How many people have been prosecuted for non-compliance? Zip. So I come back to the question of, if you make the laws, what's the foundation for them? Who decides what's right and what's wrong? Today it's still a bit of a moot point for argument, but go back to the laws of God. These are the same laws our laws were based on, the Mosaic law handed personally delivered into the hands of Moses. So it's our duty to both God and our neighbour to uphold the laws of the land. Now, of course we can disagree with them, but there are ways about bringing the change. Above all, if we're to live in society, we must obey the laws, but we understand why we have them. Understand as a parent why it is that you set the rules in your own home. Understand why God has given us a law, a code by which to live alongside our fellow man. You know, with all the laws that we have, what do you think is the most important? Now, Jesus' followers asked him the same question, and his answer can be found in Matthew 22:37, and I'll leave you with this. It was, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind." The second is like unto it, "Thou shalt love thy neighbour as thyself." On these 2 commandments hang all the laws and the prophets.